Ladies and gentlemen, there is one battlefield that will determine the course of your life, and it is not the marketplace, the courtroom, or the arena of public opinion. It is the space between your ears. Your mind is your most powerful asset, or your greatest liability. Master it, and you master everything. Every man and woman is born with the same invisible tools: thought, willpower, emotion, and desire. But only a few ever learn how to use them. Most are ruled by external forces, circumstances, opinions, fears, and temporary defeats. But the successful ones, they are ruled from within. They have learned the ancient truth: control your thoughts, and you control your future. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, but belief does not come to the lazy mind. Belief is earned through discipline, through persistence, and through the repeated act of choosing thought over emotion, purpose over impulse. Let me ask you, what are you feeding your mind? Doubt or faith, excuses or responsibility? You cannot plant weeds and expect roses. The mind, like the soil, returns only what you sow. If you allow fear to take root, fear will grow. But if you plant the seed of definite purpose, water it with faith, and protect it with persistence, nothing can stop the harvest of success. You must become the master of your mental state. Anger, fear, jealousy, and indecision, these are the enemies of your greatness. When you feel them rise, you must meet them with calm, with clarity, and with a will unshaken by emotion. Greatness is never born in chaos. It is born in calm concentration. Look around you. Every building, every invention, every fortune, every movement began as a thought. And that thought was nurtured by someone who refused to let it die, no matter the opposition. Destiny is not a matter of chance. It is the result of controlled thought, directed action, and unwavering purpose. So I leave you with this: you are the master, you are the captain, you are the one who commands the ship of your life, and it begins by mastering the one thing no one else can touch: your own mind. Master your mind, and you will master your destiny. Thank you. Your mind is your greatest asset or liability. This simple truth holds more weight than any material possession, more influence than any social connection, and more power than any amount of money. The mind, properly directed and trained, can produce wealth, success, health, and peace. But if left uncontrolled, undisciplined, and susceptible to negative influences, it can destroy dreams, sabotage opportunity, and bind a person to a life of limitation and fear. Every human being is given the same fundamental tool at birth: the power to think. Thought is the starting point of all achievement. It is the origin of every invention, every scientific breakthrough, every fortune ever built. Before there is progress, there is an idea, and before the idea becomes reality, it must be shaped, held, and fueled by the mind of its creator. In this way, the mind becomes the workshop in which destiny is forged. But the quality of what it produces depends entirely on how it is governed. The mind is not naturally disciplined, it is not neutral, it is fertile soil, yes, but it will grow whatever is planted in it. It will not question the seed. Whether you feed it with thoughts of success or failure, abundance or lack, confidence or doubt, it will accept the input and set to work. Like a diligent servant, it will attract, create, and organize your life in accordance with your dominant thoughts. This is why mastering the mind is essential, because if you do not take control, something else will. The world is full of influences, some empowering, most distracting. News, gossip, fear, failure, and cynicism flow freely through conversations, headlines, and personal experience. If the mind is left open and unguarded, these external forces take root. Soon, a person finds themselves reacting to life instead of creating it. They become a slave to circumstance, tossed by the winds of public opinion and personal doubt. But those who succeed in life have learned to seal their minds from the negative. They act on deliberate thought, not fleeting emotion. An undisciplined mind makes excuses, blames others, avoids responsibility, and dwells in fear. It resists change, it sabotages progress, and it magnifies every obstacle. But a disciplined mind sees challenge as a path to strength. It focuses on solutions, not problems. It believes that every setback contains a seed of equal or greater benefit, and it never forgets its chief purpose. This type of mind has been trained like a muscle. It has been developed through habit, repetition, and choice. Thoughts are not random events. They are selected, consciously or unconsciously. What you dwell on, you become. A person who constantly thinks of scarcity will miss opportunities. A person who thinks of failure will act with hesitation and fear. But the one who thinks of success, of purpose, of service, will be driven forward by an unseen but powerful force, belief. Belief originates in the mind. It cannot be handed to you. It must be built, and it is built by taking control of thought. Just as a gardener removes weeds to protect the health of the soil, you must remove doubt, fear, and indecision from your mind. These are mental weeds. They look small at first, but if left unchecked, they spread quickly. They drain your energy, cloud your judgment, and rob you of enthusiasm. Your mental environment must be kept pure if you expect to grow anything worthwhile in it. The mind, once mastered, becomes a magnet for success. It draws people, opportunities, ideas, and resources in perfect harmony with your dominant thoughts. But it only does this when it is consistently directed toward a specific purpose. Drifting from thought to thought, reacting to every emotion, and jumping from one desire to another leads only to frustration. Concentration of mental energy is the key. Focused thought is a creative force. What you think about consistently, you begin to expect. What you expect, you prepare for. What you prepare for, you act on. And what you act on, you attract and achieve. This is not magic. It is not mysticism. It is the natural law of cause and effect applied to the mental realm. Your mind, when understood and mastered, becomes the original source of all results in your life. Whether those results are desirable or disastrous depends entirely on how you think. Control your thoughts to control your future. This is not merely a philosophical idea. It is a law of life. Your present reality, everything you see, experience, and possess, has been shaped directly or indirectly by the thoughts you have allowed to dominate your mind. The thoughts you choose today are constructing the blueprint of your tomorrow. No circumstance, no obstacle, no external power has as much influence over your future as the quiet, persistent flow of thought within your own mind. Thought is the seed of all action. Before a man takes a single step, before he speaks, before he builds, before he changes his life, he first thinks. His thoughts direct his choices direct his actions, and his actions determine his results. Therefore, to change your life, you must first change your thinking. You cannot expect different outcomes if your mind is still chained to the same old doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs. You must take conscious control of the thoughts you allow to live in your mind. Most people do not think deliberately. They react. They allow their thoughts to be formed by the opinions of others, by the news they hear, by past experiences, and by present fears. Their mind becomes a mirror, reflecting everything around them without filtering for truth, value, or purpose. In this state, they become prisoners of external forces. They may believe they are making choices, but in reality, their choices are being made for them by the uncontrolled flow of unconscious thinking. True freedom begins when you choose your thoughts with intention. You must understand that thought is creative. Every sustained thought, backed by belief and emotion, sets into motion a chain of events. These events may seem random on the surface, but over time, they form patterns, and these patterns become your results. If you consistently think of success, you begin to notice opportunities. You become more confident. You speak and act with purpose. People respond to that energy, and doors begin to open. But if your thoughts are dominated by fear, hesitation, or confusion, you act accordingly. You shrink from opportunity, you doubt your decisions, and the world responds with rejection and resistance. Your future is not written in the stars. It is being written every day in your mental habits. Thought is like a compass. It determines the direction of your life. Even if you are not where you want to be today, you can alter your course by changing the thoughts you hold as dominant. This requires more than wishful thinking. It requires effort, discipline, and consistency. It means identifying the thoughts that do not serve your goals and replacing them with those that do. Negative thinking does not just slow your progress, it sabotages it. When you constantly dwell on what might go wrong, you paralyze your ability to act. When you believe you are not worthy, not capable, or not ready, you unconsciously find ways to confirm that belief. This mental pattern becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But when you deliberately think thoughts of confidence, purpose, and possibility, your mind begins to support your progress. It gathers evidence that success is possible. It gives you the clarity and drive to move forward. To control your thoughts, you must first become aware of them. Many people are unaware of how frequently they think destructively. They carry mental patterns of complaining, criticizing, and fearing that have become so habitual they seem normal. But these patterns must be broken. Begin by observing your inner dialogue. What do you say to yourself when no one is listening? Are you your greatest encourager or your harshest critic? Every word you think matters. Every thought is a vote for your future self. Replace fear with faith. Replace doubt with determination. Replace indecision with action. This is not always easy, especially when the world presents challenges, but the ability to think clearly and positively in the midst of adversity is the mark of one who is truly in control of their destiny. Do not wait for circumstances to change before changing your thinking. Change your thinking, and your circumstances will follow. Every time you choose a higher thought over a lower one, you are building your future. Every time you reject a thought of defeat and replace it with a thought of victory, you are shaping a new path. The mind will follow the direction you set. It is your servant, not your master, but it must be trained, conditioned, and led with vision. Control your thoughts consistently, and your future cannot help but align with the vision you have chosen. Belief is earned through discipline and persistence. It does not arrive fully formed. It is not something that simply appears in a moment of inspiration or motivation. Belief is built over time through the deliberate and repeated act of staying committed to a purpose even when no results are visible. It grows stronger each time you choose to keep going when quitting would be easier. It becomes real when you take daily action in support of a goal, even in the face of uncertainty, rejection, or fear. Many people wait for belief before they act. They tell themselves that they will begin their journey once they feel more confident, once they are sure it will work, once they are certain of the outcome. But belief does not precede action, it follows it. You must act before you believe. You must show up consistently, do the work, stay focused, and face discomfort. Then, slowly, belief begins to grow, not as a hope, but as a certainty rooted in personal experience. Discipline is the starting point. It is the decision to do what needs to be done whether or not you feel like doing it. Discipline is not dramatic. It is not a single grand act. It is found in the quiet, often unnoticed choices you make every day. Getting up early when it would be easier to sleep, finishing what you started, keeping your word, resisting distractions, pushing yourself a little further than you did yesterday. These acts of discipline, repeated over time, form the foundation upon which belief is built. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you teach yourself that you can be trusted. You develop self-respect. You build a record of proof, evidence that you are capable, that you can endure, that you can overcome, and belief feeds on this proof. Without discipline, there is no consistency, and without consistency, belief cannot take root. It remains a fleeting idea rather than a guiding force. Persistence is what carries you through the storms that inevitably come. It is the fuel that keeps the engine of discipline running when the road is long and the journey is lonely. Persistence means continuing to move forward when progress is invisible. It means holding on to your purpose when others doubt you, when your plans fall apart, and when you are tired of starting over. Persistence is not loud. It is often quiet and stubborn. It is the refusal to quit. There will be times when everything around you suggests that you should stop. There will be voices, internal and external, that question your path, your worth, and your chances. But belief is not born in ease. It is born in resistance. It is forged in the fire of effort and challenge. When you persist in spite of opposition, you strengthen your belief. You demonstrate to yourself that your will is stronger than your environment. This is how belief becomes unshakable. Belief cannot be borrowed. It cannot be handed to you by others. People can encourage you, inspire you, and support you, but belief must be built from within. You must earn it through your own experience. This is why discipline and persistence are so essential. They allow you to prove to yourself what is possible. They move belief from an abstract desire to a living reality. Do not wait for belief to feel perfect. At first, it will be fragile. You may doubt yourself even as you move forward. That is normal. But every time you act with discipline and persist through difficulty, you add another layer to your belief. You strengthen your resolve, you sharpen your vision, you build momentum, and as belief grows, it becomes a force that drives you, protects you, and empowers you to achieve what once seemed impossible. It is easy to start when things are going well. It is easy to believe when everything is falling into place. But the belief that truly changes lives is the belief that is built in the dark, in silence, in struggle. It is the belief you earn after pushing through resistance, after facing failure and deciding to keep going anyway. That belief is not fragile. It cannot be taken from you. It becomes a part of who you are. You reap what you mentally sow. Thoughts become reality. Every thought you consistently hold in your mind sets into motion a chain of events that ultimately creates your external circumstances. This is not superstition or wishful thinking. It is a principle rooted in the natural law of cause and effect. The mind is the seedbed of all creation, and the thoughts you plant in it, whether positive or negative, will grow into the life you live. You are not a passive observer in your journey. You are the gardener, the sower, and the reaper. Most people believe their circumstances shape their thinking, but the truth is the opposite. Your thinking shapes your circumstances. What you dwell on internally becomes the blueprint for what you experience externally. A person who constantly thinks about lack, limitation, and failure inevitably begins to act in ways that produce those exact results. Their language reflects defeat, their decisions are rooted in fear, and their energy repels opportunity. Over time, their reality conforms to the image they carry in their mind. This is the harvest of negative thought. On the other hand, when a person plants thoughts of abundance, growth, and possibility, the mind begins to align with that vision. Decisions become bold and focused. Words become intentional and constructive. Habits shift toward productivity and resilience. Over time, these mental seeds begin to bear fruit in the form of real-world success. Opportunities are recognized and seized. Challenges are met with confidence. This is not a coincidence. It is the natural result of what has been planted, nurtured, and cultivated in the mind. Thoughts are not isolated or powerless. They are alive with creative energy. Every thought carries a vibration, and that vibration influences how you feel, how you act, and how others respond to you. When you entertain a thought consistently, it begins to shape your beliefs. Those beliefs influence your attitude, which in turn shapes your behavior. And behavior, repeated over time, creates results. That is the process through which thoughts become things. It is not enough to simply think once in a while about what you want. You must think it persistently. Just as a farmer does not expect a crop from a single seed planted and forgotten, you cannot expect lasting change from an occasional positive thought. You must dwell daily on the vision of the life you want to create. You must water it with attention, protect it from the weeds of doubt and fear, and feed it with the nutrients of faith and purpose. Many people sabotage their own harvest because they allow negative thinking to contaminate their mental soil. They think one good thought in the morning, then spend the rest of the day worrying, complaining, and focusing on what's wrong. This is like planting corn and then pouring poison over it each afternoon. The soil of the mind cannot yield a positive harvest if it is overwhelmed by contradiction. You must be vigilant. Guard your thoughts as you would guard something precious, because they are. They are the architects of your destiny. This principle is both empowering and sobering. It means that you are responsible for what your life becomes. You cannot blame others, fate, or circumstances for your long-term outcomes. You have been planting seeds every day through every thought, consciously or unconsciously. If you want to change your results, you must change your thoughts. That is where the work begins. It is internal, invisible at first, and often thankless in the early stages. But eventually, the results appear. They cannot help but appear. The law is exact. It does not matter where you start. You may have spent years planting the wrong seeds. You may have a field overgrown with weeds, but you can begin today to sow something different. You can clear the land of past beliefs and begin to plant thoughts of strength, success, courage, gratitude, and love. With time and care, those thoughts will take root, and they will begin to push out the old. New actions will follow, new habits will emerge, and new opportunities will present themselves. This is the quiet, powerful work of the mind. The results of your life are always in harmony with your most dominant thoughts. This is why change must begin at the thought level. You do not need to chase success or force opportunity. You need to cultivate the thoughts that naturally attract them. The world outside you is a reflection of the world within you. Whatever you plant in your mind and nurture with attention will eventually appear in your life. Emotional control is essential to personal power. The emotions you experience and how you manage them determine the direction and strength of your actions. While emotions themselves are natural and often involuntary, your response to them is always within your control. A person who cannot govern their emotions is like a ship without a rudder, tossed and turned by every wave, vulnerable to every storm, unable to stay on course. But a person who has trained themselves to remain steady under pressure possesses a rare and commanding power. Power begins with self-mastery, and self-mastery begins with emotional discipline. Anger, fear, doubt, envy, and discouragement are powerful emotional currents. Left unchecked, they erode your clarity, damage relationships, and cloud your judgment. They lead to decisions made in haste, words spoken in heat, and actions that later bring regret. Each time you allow your emotions to override your reason, you give away your power. You surrender control of your destiny to circumstances or people outside yourself. True power is the ability to stay calm when others are losing their heads, to choose a response rather than react, to remain committed to a purpose even when the emotional climate is stormy. Emotions are not your enemy. In fact, when properly understood and directed, they become one of your greatest allies. They provide energy, drive, and intensity. Passion fuels achievement. Conviction attracts followers. Joy builds resilience, but these positive emotions must be consciously cultivated. They do not grow in chaos. They grow in a mind that is trained to focus on gratitude, purpose, and possibility. Just as a muscle becomes stronger through resistance, emotional control is strengthened by facing difficulty and choosing to respond with intention. The world does not reward those who are emotionally erratic. It rewards those who can remain centered, composed, and clear, minded in all conditions. Leadership, influence, and trust are built on consistency. When people see that you can maintain control in moments of crisis, they look to you for guidance. When you do not panic under pressure, others are drawn to your steadiness. This is not something that can be faked. It must be developed over time through a series of small decisions to remain in control when it would be easier to collapse or lash out. The path to emotional mastery begins with awareness. You cannot change what you do not recognize. You must begin to observe your emotional patterns, what triggers you, what situations cause you to lose focus or behave impulsively. When you understand your triggers, you can prepare for them. You can create a mental strategy to meet them with clarity. Emotional control does not mean suppressing your feelings. It means acknowledging them, understanding their root, and choosing a response that supports your highest goals. Emotional habits are just as powerful as physical ones. If you have the habit of reacting with anger, with doubt, with jealousy, or with fear, those patterns will repeat until they are replaced. They must be trained out and replaced with new habits of thought and behavior. This requires discipline, it requires practice, but every time you choose patience over anger, confidence over fear, or focus over distraction, you are building emotional strength, and this strength compounds. It grows, it becomes who you are. When you control your emotions, you are no longer a victim of mood or circumstance. You do not rise and fall with the opinions of others. You do not wait for everything to be perfect before you act. You create your own weather. You carry your peace within you. This is what separates those who achieve lasting success from those who burn out or break down. The most successful people are not those who never feel doubt or fear. They are the ones who have learned not to be ruled by them. Power is the ability to remain focused when distractions scream for your attention. Power is the ability to stay determined when obstacles appear. Power is being able to pause, breathe, and respond with clarity when others are reacting with chaos. This is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is the highest form of strength. It is discipline at the emotional level, and it radiates in every decision, every interaction, and every result you create. When you gain control over your emotions, you gain control over your energy, your time, your relationships, and ultimately your future. Success begins within long before it appears without. Before the world can reflect your vision, you must first see it clearly in your own mind. Every meaningful achievement, every transformation, every breakthrough in history started first in the invisible world of thought. A man does not build a bridge, a company, a career, or a legacy without first building it internally with imagination, clarity, and unwavering belief. What you cultivate within will eventually shape the reality around you. If there is confusion, doubt, or chaos in the mind, there will be disorder in life. But if there is order, vision, and certainty within, the outer world must eventually reflect it. The inner world is the command center of all that follows. It governs how you see yourself, how you interpret the events around you, and how you respond to challenges and opportunities. The one who masters the inner world, his thoughts, beliefs, values, and focus, becomes unshakable in the face of outer circumstances. It is not that challenges disappear. It is that the individual has developed such a strong internal foundation that challenges no longer define him. He defines himself, and the world responds. The world may admire results, but results are only the fruit. The root lies deep in the unseen efforts of the inner life. Discipline, self-respect, courage, imagination. These are not external traits. They are internal decisions, practiced daily, refined in solitude, and hardened by perseverance. You cannot buy them, fake them, or borrow them. You must earn them through deliberate focus and commitment. The man who looks outward for strength, validation, or direction is always at the mercy of others. But the man who looks inward builds something unmovable. Your thoughts are the architects of your world. If your thinking is cloudy, your actions will be uncertain. If your mind is consumed with fear, your choices will reflect hesitation. If your heart is filled with anger or envy, your energy will repel opportunity. But if you build your mind on clarity, confidence, and purpose, you attract what aligns with that energy. You begin to act in a way that brings those results to life. You move with intent. You speak with conviction. You live on purpose. You cannot expect the world to give you more than you give yourself. If you doubt your worth, you will sabotage success. If you see yourself as weak, others will treat you accordingly. But when you develop a strong internal image, when you carry yourself with quiet certainty, when you speak with grounded assurance, when you honor your own vision with action, the world begins to respond in kind. Opportunities align with the image you project. People begin to believe in you, not because of what you say, but because of the energy that comes from deep internal belief. Too many chase external validation, hoping success will fix their inner struggle. But the outer world is only a mirror. If you feel incomplete, no amount of wealth, attention, or praise will fill that gap. Real transformation begins the moment you stop chasing and start building, when you shift your focus inward and begin to strengthen the qualities that make success inevitable. Patience, endurance, faith, focus, these are the pillars on which lasting achievement is built. The internal work is often overlooked because it is invisible. It cannot be measured by numbers or trophies. It does not receive applause, but it is the most important work you will ever do, to sit in silence with your fears, to challenge your limiting beliefs, to replace self-doubt with truth, to train your mind to focus on what matters. This is the foundation of greatness. Without it, success is unstable, fleeting, and empty. With it, even the smallest victories are rich with meaning. It is not what happens around you, but what happens within you that determines your future. The storms of life will come, circumstances will change, people will disappoint, plans will fall apart, but if your inner world is strong, you will adapt, rebuild, and rise again. You will not be defined by failure or inflated by success. You will remain centered, clear, and committed. This is the true definition of power, not domination over others, but mastery of self. And it all begins with the decision to cultivate the mind, the heart, and the spirit with the same intensity that others chase external results.